recognized, and we are ready with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Honorable members of this TRICOM, to everyone in the room, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. So again, I'm Attorney Grace Salonga. I'm the Executive Director of the Movement Against Disinformation, or MAD for short. With me today is Attorney Tim Kalumpong, one of our senior litigators. So we would be discussing 3 points, Mr. Chair, and our submission relates to the points raised earlier by Secretary J.B. Ruiz, Kong Johnny Pimentel, and Kong Franz Castro. So first point, social media platforms have enabled the spread of disinformation. Second, social media platforms like Meta are advertising companies and mass media companies that operate and do business in the Philippines. And third, essential in addressing the problem of disinformation is the regulation of social media platforms. So we are advocating for the regulation of the social media platforms, Mr. Chair. Filipinos are engaged social media users, and data from Meltwater and We Are Social show that as of 2024, about 73.4% of the Philippine population, or about 86.75 million individuals, are on social media, spending an average of 3.5 hours per day on these platforms. Mr. Chair, according to a recent SWS survey conducted in March 2025, 59% of Filipinos consider the spread of fake news on social media as a serious concern. And further, 65% of Filipinos reported difficulty in distinguishing between real and fake news. Mr. Chair, this finding is concerning given that social media platforms are the primary source of information for most Filipinos. The Pulse Asia survey conducted from March 23 to 29, 2025 found that Facebook continues to be the dominant platform for accessing news online, with 67% of their respondents citing it as the main source of news. This is followed by YouTube at 34%, while only 4% rely on online news websites for information. Mr. Chair, we believe that social media platforms have enabled the spread of disinformation at this catastrophic level. We at the Movement Against Disinformation respectfully urge the TRICOM to center its attention on the indispensable and continuing role of social media platforms in enabling and exacerbating this societal problem of disinformation. Mr. Chair, please note that disinformation and propaganda are not new. These tools have been used throughout history to manipulate public perception, dating as far back as the Roman era, when Octavian launched a smear campaign against Mark Antony and Cleopatra. In more recent history, disinformation and propaganda played a pivotal role in recruitment efforts during World War I, while during World War II, it was instrumental in garnering support for the Nazi regime's persecution of the Jews. However, what sets today's disinformation apart is the unprecedented scale, speed, and reach enabled by social media platforms such as Facebook. Disinformation has never been as pervasive or as damaging as it is today, largely due to the viral architecture of these platforms. Social media has become the primary distribution network for bad actors who deliberately peddle false information to mislead the public. The virality, algorithmic amplification, and monetization of disinformation not only distort public discourse, but also undermine trust in democratic institutions and electoral processes. Mr. Chair, we therefore submit that regulating big technology companies that control these social media platforms is an urgent and necessary step. Just as substance abuse cannot be addressed without regulating the supply and distribution of drugs or alcohol, online disinformation cannot be addressed effectively without regulating the platforms that facilitate, encourage, and reward its spread. Mr. Chair, social media platforms are not just digital spaces for personal connection or digital library of information. They are powerful and strategic doorways to the hearts and minds of Filipinos. They are imbued with public interest similar to a critical public communication infrastructure. As such, they must be brought within the ambit of transparent, accountable, and enforceable regulatory framework. We should not allow foreign corporations to operate de facto public infrastructure in the Philippines without oversight, transparency, or regard for the safety of the public. Thus, while it is essential to hold disinformation peddlers and troll farms accountable, equal attention must be given to the social media platforms themselves. It is their engagement-driven algorithms, profit-maximizing metrics, and advertising-based monetization system that fuel disinformation and provide business opportunities for bad actors. Mr. Chair, we submit that social media platforms like Meta are advertising companies and mass media companies. On April 10, 2018, a U.S. Senator at a U.S. Senate hearing asked Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook this question: "So how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?" Mark Zuckerberg replied, "Senators, we run ads." Mr. Chair, clearly, Facebook is an advertising company. While Facebook provides a free platform to users, its operations are sustained by a business model centered on targeted advertising. Moreover, Facebook does not merely operate as an advertising platform. It also falls within the definition of mass media under Philippine laws, given its role in disseminating information to a broad audience and shaping public discourse. Please note that advertising and mass media are highly regulated industries in the Philippines precisely because of their impact on society and the public sphere. Article 16, Section 11 of the 1987 Constitution provides that the ownership and management of mass media shall be limited to citizens of the Philippines or to corporations wholly owned and managed by such citizens. The same article also provides that advertising industry is impressed with public interest and shall be regulated by law for the protection of consumers and the promotion of the general welfare. Only Filipino citizens or corporations, at least 70% of the capital of which is owned by such citizens, shall be allowed to engage in the advertising industry. Mr. Chair, the framers of the 1987 Constitution expressly restricted foreign ownership of mass media and advertising companies. They knew that these industries serve as a powerful gateways to the hearts and minds of the Filipino people. The framers recognized that mass media and advertising are not merely economic enterprises. They are influential social institutions that shape public opinion, values, lifestyle, and cultural attitudes. As such, control over these sectors was reserved exclusively for Filipinos to safeguard national identity, promote cultural integrity, and protect the public interests. Mr. Chair, during the 1986 Constitutional Commission deliberations, Commissioner Rosario Braid stated that mass media is a form of informal education. She said that mass media are important learning systems as the schools, and that if we consider them as equal in terms of influence, the state should ensure that the media are not only used as delivery systems, but that in fact the content, the approaches, the philosophy of the mass media system should really be examined in terms of whether they reinforce the values of society and the goals that we should like to develop. Mr. Chair, further, Article 2, Section 24 of the 1987 Constitution states that the state recognizes the vital role of communication and information in nation building. Again, in the sponsorship speech of Mr. Rosario Braid, she emphasized that communication is the nerve of government, just as information is power. Those who own the information technology necessarily have more power, which could be used for good or evil. We cannot talk of the functions of communication unless we have a philosophy of communication, unless we have a vision of society. Communication and information provide the leverage for power. Mr. Chair, given the tremendous power of mass media and advertising companies and their impact on the public sphere, they need to be regulated. In the Philippines, advertising companies are required to register with the Securities and Exchange Commission before they can operate. Several laws and regulatory frameworks also govern their conduct, such as the Consumer Act of the Philippines, RA number 7394, specifically Chapter 6, Article 110, which makes it unlawful for any person to disseminate or cause the dissemination of any false, deceptive, or misleading advertisement. This provision is enforced by the Department of Trade and Industry. Further, the Data Privacy Act of 2012, RA number 10173, governs the collection, use, and processing of personal data, particularly relevant to digital and micro-targeted advertising. Compliance with data privacy requirements is overseen by the National Privacy Commission. The Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, RA number 10175, also applies to advertising activities conducted online. It penalizes offenses such as cyber fraud, online libel, and other digital misconduct that may arise from unethical advertising practices. Other regulatory bodies relevant to advertising companies include the National Telecommunications Commission, which oversees the airing of broadcast advertisements on televisions and radios, and requires permits and compliance with content standards. The Movie and Television Review and Classification Board, MTRCB, which reviews and classifies advertisements shown in cinemas and on television, and has the authority to restrict inappropriate content. The Food and Drug Administration, which regulates the advertising of food, drugs, cosmetics, medical devices to ensure truthful and safe promotional claims. Mr. Chair, in addition to government regulation, the advertising industry in the Philippines also adheres to a self-regulatory framework through the Ad Standards Council, or ASC. The ASC enforces a code of ethics requiring that advertisements be responsible, truthful, and respectful of prevailing standards of taste, decency, and human dignity. Mr. Chair, on the other hand, a mass media company in the Philippines must also register with the SEC and must secure a congressional franchise. Mass media is also subject to regulatory oversight by multiple agencies such as the NTC, which issues Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity, or provisional authorities for radio and television operations. Mr. Chair, in addition, mass media companies are expected to observe the Broadcast Code of Ethics issued by the Kapisanan ng mga Broadcaster ng Pilipinas, KBP. Although the KBP is a self-regulatory body and not a government agency, compliance with its voluntary code is widely observed among its members. Mr. Chair, if Facebook and other social media platforms are doing business in the Philippines and could be considered as advertising companies and mass media entities operating and doing business in the Philippines, then they should be regulated and governed by Philippine laws. Mr. Chair, we believe that the business model of social media platforms right now is not aligned with public interests. Mr. Chair, in 2021, Facebook whistleblower Frances Haugen revealed how Facebook consistently prioritized profit over user safety. As an advertising company, Facebook's core algorithm is designed to maximize user engagement and time spent on the site. These algorithms are content agnostic, meaning they do not differentiate between truthful content and harmful, inflammatory, or false information. Its sole objective is to amplify the most engaging content regardless of accuracy or impact. Mr. Chair, studies show that false, hateful, or emotionally charged content spreads up to 6 times faster than factual information. Vloggers, influencers, and content creators who propagate false or incendiary content often receive greater engagement like likes, shares, and comments, leading to increased visibility and financial returns through platform monetization tools. Facebook's reward system, in short, incentivizes disinformation. It creates a marketplace of disinformation. Mr. Chair, these same engagement-driven dynamics have been exploited by state and non-state actors to conduct influence operations, foreign information manipulation, and interference campaigns. Mechanisms such as click farms, troll farms, and paid keyboard warriors are used to artificially amplify narratives that serve political or strategic agendas. Mr. Chair, we submit that it is essential in addressing the problem of disinformation to regulate social media platforms. Social media platforms, particularly Facebook, now function as critical communication infrastructure, the modern public square. Despite this public role, these platforms remain private entities forms to reform their engagement mechanisms that encourage disinformation, such as modifying their share button to limit reshares to 2 degrees of separation, meaning to friends of friends only. Beyond that, you have to be intentional in resharing. This adds friction to unthoughtful sharing of disinformation. Second, reducing the amplification of content driven by anger, fear, or hate. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. Ganda yung mga information that we have gathered from you. Can you kindly submit to us the documents that you have just read? And medyo may kulang lang doon eh. Mga sinabi mo kanina about disinformation tool was being used by the Roman Empire. Even the time of Ottoman Empire, they're using it as well.